right, here we are.
Here we are. Starts off. Well, I am Randy Fraze, and this is my wife, Shelly. We've been married for what we just discussed was 13 years, going on 14 this summer. We're sitting here with
Bob and Heather.
Dirksen. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been married, will be 31 years this summer. We got 2 girls, and yeah.
What's the first question?
the first question.
How many children do we have? How old are they? And which one is our favorite?
That doesn't say that.
It does actually. So we have 3 children. Bella is 11, Ryan is 8, and then Jordan is in kindergarten.
He's 5.
So he's 5. Yep.
Which is our favorite? They're all...
I always tell Bella that she's my favorite daughter. I tell Ryan that he's my favorite oldest son. And I tell Jordan that he's my favorite youngest son, because then it's,
Good
they're all my
answer.
favorite something. And then Ryan always thinks it's funny because
But I'm
but he's
one.
like, well,
I'm
I know
number one,
why
right?
you're
So,
telling me that.
yeah.
He's like, I know, because you just want to be fair. And I'm like, well. Anyways.
We have 2 girls. Beth will be 20, or she is 27, and Caitlin will be 25 on Monday.
Oh.
And yeah, that I can't. Well,
It says just kidding.
I would say, I often say to Beth, I'll say, you're my favorite Bethany, and I'll say, you're my favorite Caitlin. So yeah, they're both my favorites.
Depends on the day, right?
Right.
That's a very politically correct answer.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Tell us about one of your memorable moments of parenting. You want to start, Bob?
I'm trying to think what we...
What we wrote?
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, one of my memorable moments with Beth was she was a little girl. We live close to a park. Our backyard backs up to a park. And she was a little girl, and I was doing some yard work in the backyard, and she said, Dad, my friends are playing at the park. Can I go and play? I said, absolutely. So she was gone, and she was back within a few minutes, a very short time. And I says, why are you back? Aren't your friends there? Yeah, she said, but they were all saying bad words. So I decided not to stay. And I thought to myself, wow, because she was not very old. I don't know. She was maybe 8 or, something like that. But I thought this told me a lot about her character, that she wasn't a follower, that, and I thought, yeah, maybe, I don't know how much of that credit was from us or how much of that is just her character, but I thought, yeah, I don't have to worry about her. She'll be okay.
She'll be all right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure there's many memorable moments, but the one for me as a parent to adult children, they were both baptized, and for me and for both of us that was huge. They have had many accomplishments with sporting events, and that was great, but to see your child baptized is pretty amazing. And just a little side note, when Beth got baptized, and she's a very strong-willed child, I want to be immersed. Okay, well, this church does not immerse. Well, but that's what I want. And that's what happened. She did. The whole class, her baptism class, got baptized at the Winkler Pool. And so that was very memorable. And just to see them both take that step for me, that for both of us, that was awesome.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I guess for me, we 2 years ago, we went on a vacation to California, and we went to the Redwoods, and the one morning it was pitch black, and we were trying to find a campsite, and we drove into this park, and it was pitch black. We parked the camper, couldn't see nothing. The trees are so tall, there's no light that gets in there, so it's dark. And we wake up in the morning and open up the camper, and right beside us there's this big fallen over redwood tree, and it's just right outside the camper. It hadn't fallen that night, it was down, but we got out of the camper, and the boys and Bella, they just looked up and they saw this giant, like massive tree, and everybody just wanted to run and climb on it and get, and just to see their excitement, like the whole trip was just so full of the excitement. Everywhere we went, they were just, it was like something new, and just to see their expression on their faces, how excited they were for something new. Like we got out of the redwoods, and you get to where, drive out to the coast, and all of a sudden you're on the coast and it's just beaches. And our first stop, we had lunch on the beach, and just to see their excitement for those moments, it was just, it was priceless. Like I love traveling with our children. So I have lots of moments where I guess I could say I enjoy that, but like that California moment of just walking out of the camper van and just seeing God's beauty in front of you, and the kids just going wild was really crazy. I really enjoyed that. That was a very memorable moment for me.
I know, and now there's the pressures on. I don't know. There's lots of. I don't know. There's
lots. But what you said, Randy, it's like seeing it through your children's eyes, right? It just makes it all more exciting and and intense. Yeah.
Because they're seeing stuff for what for them is also their first time too, right? So I mean, everything is just, it was so new, and they were just so excited, and so pure, and so like they're just, so it was really neat, because we were pulling up there and we really did not know what was going on there. It was just pitch black, and so it was kind of neat to wake up to that.
It's your turn, Randy.
Oh yeah, this good one. How did you determine it was time to have children? Shelley.
I think, well, I think for us that was really, we are both we plan things out, right? And so then, I mean, both of us had finished university, and both of us had jobs, and we had a house, and we were married, and like all of those things just kind of had sort of fallen into place, and we were stable, I guess you could say. Yeah. And so, we always had planned on having kids, and we always wanted to have a family. And at that point in our lives, we kind of were
stable
at a place where we felt
we were ready.
That we were ready. I mean, ready
as much as, you're never ready.
As much as you ever are. Like, I mean, it's still, I don't think like you're ever, like you never have enough money, and you never have enough stability, and you never have enough everything to be like 100% ready. But like we were,
you can't wait for that either, right? So we were at that time, we felt we were ready, and it's just, the thought of taking that responsibility on is like.
But then when you find out you are actually expecting, you're like, oh no, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Too late.
Too late. Not too late. Like it was all good, right?
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I always knew I wanted to have kids, and I think for us too.
I remember when we were dating. And I remember, okay, now it's kind of time for the next stage. Now it's time to get married. I remember feeling that. And I kind of remember feeling that as well after we were married for a couple of years. Okay, now it's time for the next stage. You could just feel the timing was right. Now it's time for kids. At least I felt that way.
We had a little conversation before we had kids, and I made it very clear that we were going to keep trying until we had girls.
Oh,
at least one girl.
At least one girl.
Because I grew up with boys. I didn't have any sisters, and I really wanted a girl.
And I've always been disappointed that I didn't negotiate that better. Because now I'm in sales. So as a salesperson, I think one should negotiate. But in those days, I was actually in the service department. So I was more about customer satisfaction, right? So I just agreed. But I should have really said that we would also keep trying until we had a boy.
Right.
I'm so glad we had girls right off the hop.
Done. There you go. No, we had a girl, and then for our second one, we decided we'd find out what we were having.
Oh, cool.
And so we found out that we were having a boy, and then we had one of each. And we had always talked that maybe we'd have 3 or 4. We didn't really say what we were going to have until we had Jordan, and then we were just done. We just knew we were done. So we had 3, and we just we felt complete at that point. And it was, when are you ready for it? I don't know. I think you just get to a point, like we talked about it even too when you're dating, right? About things that you would like and stuff like that. So I don't know if there was any point that specifically said, hey, we're ready at this point. It's just we felt stable enough that we thought we can bring another human into this world, maybe
Right.
until, yeah, like you said, you're pregnant. You're like, oh my goodness, I'm responsible for another human being. I'm not ready. Stop. So
No, there's nothing that quite prepares you for that. I mean, you could read all the books you want, but nothing prepares you for that. And
No.
just like raising adult children, there's nothing to prepare you when your daughter comes to the door at midnight in distress, right?
Right.
There's just nothing that will prepare you for it.
and you deal with it the way you can, the best you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't come with an owner's manual.
No.
What is your least favorite thing about being a parent?
Discipline. I do not enjoy disciplining our children.
Yeah, neither of us really. I mean, we do.
We do. Yeah, totally. But
We do, but I strongly dislike having that role. It's, because I find that it's, discipline theoretically should be consistent and level-headed and all of that, but often discipline doesn't come. You don't need to discipline when everything is going hunky-dory and when you guys are all in such a receptive mood to criticism, right? And it's never at a point where I am even keeled, right? And so
then just
so discipline is just
Yeah.
hard. I wish I didn't have to have that role as a parent because I
Right.
struggle with it because it never goes how I want it to go and how it goes in the books. In the books it tells you to do it this way and this is how the child is going to respond and this is how you should respond to the child and then you should all come to resolution together and there will be and that's just not how it happens. And it's hard, and then I feel hard, like it's hard, and they feel like it's hard, and
yeah.
I don't know.
And then all three children are different, right?
Exactly.
So how one responds to something, the next one doesn't. So one of them, you just have to raise your voice, and then
Right.
all of a sudden tears are going, and the next one could care less if you raised your voice.
Right.
They're like, "Oh, doesn't matter to me, And so you're just figuring it out, but still trying to do it. Yeah, like Shelley said, you're supposed to discipline and love, right? And at the same time, goodness, I'm so mad at that point too. It's so hard to do that and love and be like, I love you kids, but you know what I mean? So I think that for myself is
Yeah.
definitely the
Mhm.
hardest part about parenting. It's just,
And to find that balance, because like you say, both our kids are so different,
yeah.
right? That's where we found it a struggle because you try to keep it fair, but I mean, you try to one thing works for one kid and one thing doesn't work for the other, and so it's pretty difficult.
And then when you always have that one kid that's so much better than the other. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to comment.
Exactly.
I know, don't. Randy.
No, they're all great.
Yeah,
All
they are.
great, but they all
What is the
need
hardest?
discipline.
What is
For raising adult children, I'm a fix-it person. I like to fix things. So when my girls text me regarding something, okay, do you want me to fix it, or are you just venting?
Oh,
And most times they're just venting. And so the hardest part for me is when I see them hurting and I can't fix it. You see them walking through difficult situations. You can walk alongside them and pray for them and guide them. You can offer advice. Most times they probably won't take it. But
that's good to know. Good advice.
So that's the hardest part for me, is that when I can't fix it for them.
Yeah, that's at a different level that we're not at right now. Our problems still are.
You can still fix them.
We can still fix them, right? There's still little problems.
Little kids, little problems.
Right?
There is something to be said about that. Big kids, big problems.
I know. So
I've rarely had a late night text that was good.
you
Rarely.
should stop giving them phones.
Stop answering it past 9 o'clock.
Take away their phones? Is that an answer for adult children? I don't know.
No, those phone calls after whatever is
They're hard.
typically never great.
But it's a part of growing, right? And it's a part of us growing, it's a part of them growing, and we still parent, right? Even though your kids are adults, you're still parenting. Like, you kind of think when they're small, you think, well, you know, that'll be over, right? We won't have to parent once they're out of the house or whichever, but it's not true. Like, you're still always parenting.
Right?
So often people say to me with kids with or people with younger kids say, "Please tell me it gets easier." I can't. I can't tell you that it will get easier. It's different,
Right.
but it certainly isn't always easier.
A lot of times it is, but
Yeah.
not all the time.
Well, yeah, they're older. It's different problems or different things, right? I mean, it's
I think we're at the sweet spot right now because our kids are sleeping through the night and everybody's like happy and they all are happy, like watching TV. Like that's as complicated as it gets,
Yep.
right? Like
Yep.
it's like I feel like we're in a really good spot in that I feel like things are easier actually right now for us because the problems aren't really that big and everybody's
sleeping.
and everybody's more independent right now, but like a good kind of independent
Right.
in that they pour their own cereal kind of independent, right? But not independent like they're taking my car and leaving kind of independent. So,
Just
right?
press pause.
Yeah.
Well, so this is what I hear is that everybody says that like we're in a really good place as far as our children's ages and that things are easier.
Yeah, and you
And I
go-
actually think that they are right now.
You can
Right
go
now.
do fun things together. And
Right?
And everybody enjoy it.
Camping.
I mean,
Camping and that kind of stuff.
not
And-
everybody enjoys it. Usually there's one person that doesn't enjoy whatever we're doing.
Yeah. What is your favorite thing about being a parent?
Being empty nesters.
no, that's not true.
Kinda.
Kinda.
No. We got to read up on this one.
Yeah, well, I just watching them excel. I mean, I think that's my favorite part is watching them do something well and knowing that maybe you had a small part in molding them into that, right? And I remember the first time they got a job, and to watch them, you know, from the background, you could watch them working at their job, and to see actually they were working, they were contributing, and they were thought, oh, you know, that's awesome. That made me proud, right? And
Right.
yeah.
I love spending time with them. I mean, they humor me and spend time with me, whether they like it or not. But I love spending time with them and hanging out and just being with them.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of on the same lines as you. I have dad proud moments.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously our kids aren't graduated or anything like that, but like when they get like a hockey medal or a baseball medal or a gymnastics medal, or they've done something that you've had that little part of you that's been able to help them or whatever. And
Yeah.
you just have this moment where you kind of melt,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're like, oh, like you're just so proud. And yeah, I don't know. I love spending time with our kids too, but those are things where moments where I'm just like, I kind of get like excited, right? You're like,
And
you're,
I
you're
still
excited
get
for
those
them.
moments. I still get those moments where I'm excited and I'm proud when I see what they're doing. So that doesn't stop.
Well, that's awesome.
And I kind of was looking at this, and I was looking at this as like, yeah, my favorite thing about my kids is just hanging out with them and all the cool memories that we have together, and like cuddling with them and reading with them and all those things. But then I was also looking at that question and thinking, okay, well, like, are we thinking like favorite thing about the role of being a parent? And then what my head kind of went to is like, well, something that I appreciate about parenthood is I feel like being a parent has made me grow as a person. And that's a little bit more introspective than, but as a person, like when I look at, you know, when you see your kid do something awesome and you're like, oh, I maybe had something to do with that. But then you see something that your kid that does that's like, that's me too, but that's not what I would like to see, right? And so then I find that being a parent has made me grow because I'm constantly looking at my beliefs and evaluating them, and I'm constantly looking at my behaviors and evaluating them and seeing how that impacts my kids and seeing how that influences them and encourages them or discourages them. And so I think that something it's not necessarily always my favorite part of being a parent, but at the same time, I think it's probably a good thing for my own personal growth to have been a parent and have the opportunity to be a parent, because I feel like it's really challenged me to be a better version of myself, I guess, if that makes sense at all. That's also, yeah, so it's, I mean, one of my favorite things in that it's helped me grow, but also one of the most challenging things in that, again, it's that growth usually happens from seeing things that
It's good when you see the things that you like about yourself, but when you see the flaws, you're like, oh, that's her.
yeah. Well, I know.
Clearly not me.
I
mean.
know, and that's yeah. So that's how I sort of read that question a little bit too. So a little bit different than how Randy had read it, but yeah.
It is a very challenging job, and I don't know if this really fits in here, but I remember I always thought I was going to be this amazing mom. I would have so much patience. I would just, it didn't really work that way. I felt I got frustrated very fast and very often, right? And I really had to work with myself. And so, I mean, she was a tough one. I mean, she knew how to push my buttons, and she to this day knows that she knows how to push my buttons. And so she has helped me grow into to be stronger and to. But it's a hard job.
Yeah.
Sorry, Beth. How important was faith in your family growing up? What did it look like?
I think me and Shelley are fairly similar. I mean, I'll share mine, but we grew up and we went to church every Sunday. I mean, we went to youth, went to kids' church and midweek programming. And I always remember getting up on Sundays and Dad was always praying and doing Bible study before church. And so we grew up in a strong Christian environment. So, I mean, I guess some would say just a traditional Christian environment, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's just what it was, that we grew up in a very blessed community here. So it's not that there was piles of other religions at that point, when we were growing up, right? There's 3,000 people in Winkler, everybody knew everybody, and most people were Christians, right? So it would, for myself, would have been a very typical Christian environment.
Yeah, so my family went to church. My parents were involved with things in the church. I had, I don't know, we went to youth and we went to clubs and we went to Sunday school and we did all those kind of things. And yeah, we read Bible stories at home and prayed and I don't know, kind of all those, what I imagine is common church-going family stuff.
I would say same, probably. Grew up in a Christian home. And I think faith was very important. I don't know if it was really discussed an awful lot, maybe in those, I don't know if my parents are more conservative or not, but I mean, definitely it was important for us to go to church every Sunday. I remember seeing my parents kneeling at their bed praying, and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, they were good role models that way for sure.
Same. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents were both very involved in the church. I can still see my dad sitting at the end of the table with his head in his hands and his Bible in front of him, and I knew he was praying. And that was every morning. And I never questioned, and it wasn't ever forced on us as kids, but I was very afraid of disappointing my parents, and so I would, I had a lot of, I have a lot of respect for my mom, and my dad is gone, but I had the utmost respect for him. And I remember, this is a little off topic, but I remember when I started dating, my dad was a man of very few words, but when he spoke, they meant a lot. So he came into my bedroom and I thought, oh my word. And he says, all I want to say to you is I want you to be careful. And I knew exactly what that meant. And so, it was your typical, Christian home.
Yeah, role modeling. That would have been a good word. You could see how they lived, what you know, kind of how we want for our kids as well, right? You want to live that role model so that they see, not necessarily that you have to yell it into them, but that they see how you are, right? How you act. And
Yeah, right. I remember the one time when I was a teenager, and probably, well, I was old enough to make my own choices, and there was, a number of years there where I chose not to go to church, and because sleeping in on a Sunday was more important to me. And then I remember my dad coming down to my room the one day and says that now it was, I think it's time you go to church. And I remember thinking to myself, well, that's not the way it works. You have to have you have to have a faith. You have to have you can't just go to church. You have to have a
Desire.
But yet that, I think that sparked something in me. And then I started reading my Bible, and I started going to church, and I did. And, got baptized and all those things. And I'm not sure if that conversation actually did it, but I remember he riled me up a little bit when he said that, right? It's time to go to church. And it's kind of busy Sunday mornings.
Sleeping, yeah.
And usually parents have a way of doing that, right? Like they have words that they'll use or whatever. And I don't know if it's more to spark you or whatever. I mean, I used to always try and set my dad off too. I mean, through high school years, I always would dye my hair. I wasn't a crazy, crazy child, but I did things that I knew that he was going to be ticked off about. I just remember coming home the one day, I don't know what color my hair was, but he just looked at me. I just remember he just said, "I'm just so disappointed with you." And it just cut through me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it cut so deep. And I was like he could have said anything. He could have just, said the meanest things. But just looking at me and just saying, "I'm just so disappointed in you." And I was just like, I just remember walking downstairs and I'm like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? I'm like, what am I doing? Like, it was just for me, it was just to get a rise out of them. And yeah, for me, that was kind of one of those moments too, where I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is dumb. All right. What do you think the ideal family of faith should look like?
I don't think the ideal family, after, you read Deuteronomy 6 verses 6 to 9, right? And they talk about what you're supposed to tie it on the bed frames and tie it on the doorposts. And I read that and I think, okay, well, then I guess we failed, right? Then we didn't do a good enough job. We tried to do our best, but when I read that, then I think, okay, we're not the ideal. Then the bar is too high.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of an ideal family of faith, I'm thinking not just a family who does the right things, but actually has a relationship with God, right? Who actually has a personal relationship with their Savior, not just going to church and dressing the right way and saying the right things and having the right relationships, but someone like that your kids see that you have a faith, a personal relationship with Jesus. So, and I think that's kind of actually harder than just doing the right things, because especially if that's a personal thing to you and you're not used to sharing that kind of thing with other people, I think that's actually harder than just running through the things that you normally do that are the right things to do. My grandma, she was someone who I always really admired her faith. As she got old, I don't even remember her ever going to church. When she was younger, she did go to church, but as she got older, it becomes more difficult to get into the building. And when you're there, there's just some logistical things. So she didn't end up going to church for a really long time. And so she wasn't doing the right things, if you know what I mean. But at the same time, she had an incredible faith. She read her Bible all the time. And when she talked to me, whenever in all of her conversations, her faith was mixed in there. And not just like that you should be doing this or this or this, but that Jesus wants us to be, Jesus has these feelings for us. He loves you. Oh, I love you. And Jesus loves you too. And things, and that's not a direct quote, but just that her faith
was so strong. Like she spoke of him like God as if he was just always with her all the time. It was just so amazing to hear her speak. And when she prayed, she prayed as if he was sitting right there and just like a best friend almost.
Yeah.
And it was.
And so then when I think about an ideal family of faith, I think of like what my grandma was to me.
Like it should be inviting, right? Like for you, it was obviously very inviting.
Yeah.
Right?
Like I saw that and I was like, well, that's like really appealing because she had that relationship with him. Not that she was necessarily following the rules exactly the way,
right? Yeah,
the way that we would perceive them, a good Christian to be exactly doing all of these X, Y, and Z things, but just that she had that kind of relationship. And again, so I think that's, I think that is something to aspire to, anyways.
Well, that just proves that you don't have to fit into a box to have a relationship, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't fit into that
Mold.
box.
Yeah,
No,
right.
But that's okay.
That's very okay.
But she had the relationship.
And I mean, she always encouraged us to go to church and stuff too. It's not that she didn't. It's not that.
Yeah. So bringing that into like ideal family. I mean, if your kids could see you have a relationship with God like that, but I mean, so often we're so busy running around and doing things and cleaning up after them and stuff like that, and you don't always model that. Though you have that relationship and you want to, and you pray for that, but the day comes and the day goes, and you're like, oh my goodness, like, why were we so frustrated at this, or why are we so? Because we're human. And
Absolutely.
as much as you want to model that and have that be part of your relationship with your kids, that they see God working through you, you still have to realize that we're still human.
Yeah. What does Deuteronomy 6 verses 6-9 mean to you, and how do you feel it should affect your parenting?
Deuteronomy 6, verse 6-9. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on your door frames of your houses and on your gates.
It's a very structured, laid out verse that, like, do this, right? Where I guess we kind of we looked at it as like we like a relational side of that, and there's nothing, and I mean the verse is there and it's pretty like hardcore, right? It tells you what you should be doing, and it's hard to model that, I guess.
I think, to try to create a safe place for your kids to, especially as adults, you want to maintain that relationship with them and to allow them to feel the freedom to come to you. And does that make sense?
I don't know. Let me see what it wrote.
Awesome.
Like we're over 50, okay? So,
Right.
the memory is slipping.
It's all good.
Well, obviously, we're supposed to make it a huge part of our parenting, right? I mean, we're supposed to talk about it when we get up in the morning. We're supposed to talk about it when we go to bed, and in all times in between. And yeah, and that, to a large degree, I think we try to do that. But again, when I read that, then I feel that we fell short, right? We didn't
Impress them on
we
your
should've-
children. You're like, oh
Should
man.
have tried harder.
Yeah, I can do better. I can do better.
But
But I think we do it even maybe even without even noticing it, and it just becomes, the more you it becomes part of your conversation with your kids, it becomes natural, right? And
Right.
of course, yeah, you pray before meals and you give thanks and you do different things, and yeah, I think you're right to a large degree. I hope that they see things that we've done, and we're modeling those. Yeah.
Just like today, even my son, we were going to our hockey windup, and he looks out at the sunset. He's like, "Oh, those are pretty colors." He's like, look at the trees and stuff like that. He's like, "It's like God painted a picture." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess that's." I mean, I'm driving, but I look at the side. I'm like, "Yeah, that's beautiful, right?" But like in everything we do, I mean, God's made everything, right? Like, so really, anything we see or anything we do is, we can use that as,
It's a picture that he
it's a
painted.
picture, right?
Mhm.
And so then that's, to me, this passage is the answer to our ideal family of faith, what it should look like, right? Where our faith is part of every aspect of our day. To be real about that a little bit, I find that our days end up coming and going so quickly that unless we are super intentional about it, this kind of thing doesn't necessarily happen as much as naturally as I feel like it should. This passage sort of gives me a little bit of guilt because I feel like it should be something that should be fairly natural, that that just comes pouring out of, your faith comes pouring out of you at every aspect or every time of the day. But
But I think he is also telling us to try to make it intentional, right? And yeah, you're right. I mean, we get so busy and our days go by so fast, but I think this is a reminder for us to make it intentional.
Right.
And it's easy for us to, I mean, we all do. I'm guilty as anything, don't get me wrong. But yeah, we blame it on being too busy, or there's other things that get in the way, and we probably should be more intentional. I made us all feel guilty.
Yeah, I guess it's easy to do, like on at Easter and Christmas and stuff like that. It's really easy to do that, but throughout a normal working week or whatever, I mean, it's not that. Yeah, you say your prayers and you pray before you go to bed and stuff like that. But do we all the time?
And how do you do it when you have a situation that's tough, right? And then how do you
See
let
God
God
through
shine
that,
through
right?
that, right? When you have a tough situation, and
especially when they're angry, and then you have the news, and now you're angry. Now everybody's just thinking in anger. You're not thinking in a clear, and it's going to God in those hard moments too, right? Yeah.
last question. Oh,
Second last one. What do you wish your children knew about your desire for their relationship with Jesus?
I think our kids know, our girls know what our desire is for them. We have voiced that on many occasions, I would say. Our desire now, it kind of changes a bit now that, they're dating and they're, thinking of maybe getting
they're out of the house.
Out of the house, and maybe marriage is on their mind, whatever. Like, our desire would be for them to find someone who will share that faith with them. So that's a I don't know, I don't want to say concern, but that's definitely a desire that have talked to them about. And
yeah, for sure. And I think our kids know that, but I don't know if they know how much we want that. You know what I mean? Like, of course we want that for them, but I wonder if they realize how much we really want that for them, because it's so important, right?
Yeah.
To have a partner that you can share those things with and grow together.
Right. For me, I mean, my desire for our children is that they can walk along with Christ, right? Like, I want to see them get baptized. I want to see them, see how hopefully we've done a good enough job raising them, right? That they want to follow Christ and that they want to have him in in their life. And I mean, we're not at the stage where our kids are getting married, but you pray for the people that
Right.
that hopefully they'll find one day, and that, you know, I always say, like, look for somebody that, you know, that will love Jesus and respect them, and they'll respect you, right? Like, look for those things. And we may not be perfect examples, but you know, you try and be the best you can for them, right? And
Right.
so, but just how their drive is for God, like I want all three of my children to accept Christ. I want them to,
But on their own accord, like meaning
Yes.
like I want it to
that
be
they
their
want to.
faith.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
Not that they are going to church because I tell them to do that, or not because they're reading their Bible because I'm making them, but because that they have that desire for that relationship with Jesus Christ. Again, not to make me happy, not to make Randy happy, not because it's the rules, just that they want
that relationship
Yeah. For
Right.
themselves.
for
Absolutely.
themselves. So
The last question, where do you think parents fit in the message of the gospel?
Well, I think we're a big part of that picture, right? I think we're a big part of that message. I think, you know, the church is a family, but when you break that down, then, you know, obviously we're a family, but I think that's how God wants that. He wants you to go forth and multiply. He wants you to raise your kids and to instill the values on them. He wants, I mean, in the last verse that you just read, all these things we're supposed to do and to encourage them. And I think that's exactly what he wants. And I think the church is just a bigger piece of that picture, right?
there's so many stories in the Bible of Jesus and children, right? How he just loves being around the children, like, bring them to me.
Yeah.
And when I think of those stories, and I think, man, like, he loved those children, right? Like, and I feel like I love my children, and you'll do anything for them. And so I just think like Christ, he clearly, like God, he clearly wanted this for people, right? He made Adam and Eve, so that we were able to have children, and this miracle. And I just think it fits in all together, because this is something part of his creation, that this is his story, and we just get to be able to have a little part of that. You know, when you have a child, it changes you so much. You don't realize how much it changes you, but I think God works in you, and now you get to grow this little being, and you can impress your values into this child, that hopefully one day that they accept Christ as well, right? And I don't know, I guess that's the way I see it. How does it fit into the Bible? To me, that's the way I look at it. I just see, like, he just loved the children. You know, bring them to me. And I'm like, you know, and that part of me, it kind of excites me. That's what I love about children. They're fun and unpredictable, and yeah.
So when I think about so many places in the Bible that talks about God, your Father, so I often think about God the Father. I've lost.
I know. You had a good answer the other day.
I know. It's
Should
gone.
have written it down.
No, it's still there. But when I think about, they often reference like God as a parent, right? And in this case, we're going to say parent because mother, father. I mean, this is how I'm framing it in my head. But when I think about God's love for us, and I have felt my love as a parent for my child, that kind of gives me a glimpse of what how God must feel about all of us, right?
For sure.
And when I'm thinking about like when I had to, when I have to discipline my kids, or when I had to sleep train my kids, and my kid is crying and reaching for me, and it's super easy for me just to pick that kid out of the crib and like cuddle them and make it all better, but not actually help them. But I had to leave the kids there and let them like cry it out or whatever. Like they had to suffer a little bit to be able to learn how to sleep on their own. And I remember how agonizing that was for me as a parent, and it just like broke my heart, right? And then I think about, and that was one of those moments where I felt like, oh, that must be, when we have to go through these hard things, that must be how God feels when he's like, oh, I could so easily just pick you out of there, pick you out of that problem and
move
cuddle
on.
you a little bit and we move on. So then when I think about parenting and the gospel, I just feel like in so many ways, so many places in the Bible, it says how God is like our Father. And now that we are parents, you can just relate to that in a different way, right? So, does that make sense? at all?
Absolutely. It was a good answer.
Okay.
And these are our children are a gift from God.
Right.
He's giving them to us to raise and to take care of. And yeah, we fail every day, but we get back up and keep trying.